Hi guys, meteorologist Lindsey Slater here, just doing a little check of the sun. Okay, so unfortunately my helio viewer is having a hard time loading. This is the one I typically use to kind of like rotate and show you the sun. So I've loaded the helio viewer online version, which is also giving me a problem. It's 6 days or 7 days old. I can't get it to load new data, but the active regions are showing up. So at least I can show you the solar synoptic map, show you what's going on out there. And then I'll go to SWPC's website, maybe SDO, to kind of highlight. SDO should have an update on the Solar Dynamics Laboratory. So if I go here, this is from this morning. So this is what the sun currently looks like. These are the active regions right here. And I'm looking at Angstrom 171. This one's really good at showing a lot of those small intricacies of what's going on with our sun. And this is the same Angstrom. And you can see these active regions, which have now, oopsies, went a little too far there, which have now rotated on the backside of the sun. We did have this beautiful X-class flare that popped up. This one happened earlier last week that gave us this big X-class flare. This was region 4405. I'm going to get out of Helio Viewer just because the data is old, and I'm not going to use old data here. But this was the X-class flare right there. And you can see the coronagraph from it was just literally explosive. You can see almost a full halo, if not maybe a partial halo, kind of going through the sun there. This actually did cause us some auroras. Unfortunately, areas in southeast Wisconsin where I cover, we had severe weather on the 2nd, which was the expected arrival time of this CME, which is a coronal mass ejection. This was a flare that did produce a CME. Not all flares do that. Flares are typically things with like radio blackouts and, issues with just energy and transformers. These are, or I shouldn't say transformers, mainly energy when it comes to the flare. This is when you have issues with absorption, and you also are going to have radio blackouts. That's the most important part. If the flare launches a CME with it, which is plasma out of that area, then you get the issues with the transformers and electrical grid issues and the possibility of aurora. So that was that system. Now we're looking at the newest solar synoptic map. Again, this is from SWPC's website. And you can see there's a couple of areas with coronal holes. They're all positive, and we are in the spring season. So spring negative. If the coronal holes are negative, then we sometimes can get auroras. And there is a negative polarity coronal hole right here. It's really high up though. It's in the polar regions here. We have some positive coronal holes on the eastern limb. So those could be Earth directed later, maybe giving us some small chances of auroras, because basically a coronal hole, it's not a hole in the sun. The sun isn't dying. It's just the magnetic field lines pointing, like really open field lines. So when you see those little arcs and arcades, those are closed magnetic field lines that the sun produces. The open ones showcase or show up as a coronal hole. And that's what you're seeing here. That's why they look dark, because all that energy is pushing out. And it's basically a constant stream of energy pushing out of the sun, which is why they appear dark. Sometimes what you can have is you can have a high speed stream, as we call it, get into Earth's magnetosphere, and that can exacerbate it and cause auroras. Right now, I don't really see a high likelihood of that. However, there is a 10% chance that one of these regions, probably 4409, yeah, 4409 right there, there's a 10% chance this guy could be a flaring region. So I'm going to go to this guy here. It's this right here. It's this cluster over on the western limb there that we are seeing that activity. So that is something I'm going to keep an eye on. I bet you I can make that a GIF. Hang on, let me make it a video. Of course I'm going to make it a video, because visually, oh, gorgeous. Love it. Look at that. Little pop action right there. I believe that caused M-class flares. That was a little guy. That one definitely very active. That might be the one. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that's the one that we're watching. This thing has been popping M-class flares back and forth quite a bit. So that's the region we're going to watch here. That could cause more radio blackouts. As far as anything else on SWPC's site, there's really nothing indicating anything geomagnetically happening. But again, we're going to watch for those M-class flares. That is a possibility as we go through time. And I haven't seen anything. If I go to Space Weather Live, which is a wonderful website to kind of break down if you're looking at flaring regions, if you're looking at CMEs, you can really track it well on Space Weather Live. Naturally, it's not going to load for me, but nonetheless, that is your space weather update. I don't see anything big. There we go. Let's go to solar flares. And by going to solar flares, you can actually see the the timeline that we did have some flares. And that's why I'm really watching. As you can see here was an M-class flare on Saturday that we had. Didn't get to X, almost got to X. And then you can see right there, little tiny bips coming out of that one region. So we did have a C-class flare on Sunday afternoon. So that is something that I'll be watching with that particular region. Otherwise, that is it for me today. If there's anything else, I will update on my Facebook page accordingly. But otherwise, you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next week with the latest space weather update.